These are 3 of SpongeBob's darkest episodes. If you want to see just how twisted and disturbing a children's show can really get, stick around till the end to uncover the psychological horror hiding beneath Bikini Bottom's cheerful surface. Episode 1, The Graveyard Shift. The episode, The Graveyard Shift, starts with SpongeBob and Squidward working the night shift at the Krusty Krab. What begins as a typical evening quickly transforms into one of the most psychologically terrifying experiences in the entire series. Squidward, trying to scare SpongeBob, tells him the legend of the hash-slinging slasher, a former fry cook who died in a gruesome accident right there in the restaurant. According to the story, this vengeful spirit returns every Tuesday night to claim new victims, and you'll know he's coming by 3 signs. The lights will flicker, the phone will ring with no one there, and the hash-slinging slasher will arrive in a ghost bus. This is where SpongeBob's paranoia starts to consume him completely. As the night progresses, each of the 3 signs begins to manifest exactly as Squidward described. The lights flicker ominously, the phone rings with nothing but dead silence, and through the restaurant windows, they see a mysterious figure approaching in what appears to be a spectral bus.
What? Hello? Hello? And the phone. And the walls will ooze green slime.
I didn't know the buses ran this late.
It was at this moment that both SpongeBob and Squidward realized they might have unleashed something truly sinister. The figure enters the restaurant, and in the darkness, they can make out the silhouette of someone carrying what looks like a spatula, just like the weapon that killed the original hash-slinging slasher. SpongeBob becomes so terrified that he can barely function, his usual optimism completely shattered by genuine fear. Compared to what's to come, this episode establishes the foundation of psychological horror in SpongeBob. While it turns out to be a misunderstanding, we watch as SpongeBob experiences genuine terror and paranoia. The episode deals with mature themes of death, revenge from beyond the grave, and the psychological impact of urban legends. What makes this particularly disturbing is how it transforms the familiar, safe environment of the Krusty Krab into a place of dread and supernatural threat. Episode 2, SB-129. The next episode is SB-129, and this is where SpongeBob ventures into truly existential horror territory. This episode starts with Squidward trying to avoid SpongeBob by hiding in the Krusty Krab's freezer. But when he emerges, he discovers that he's been frozen for 2,000 years and has awakened in a dystopian future version of Bikini Bottom.
Squidward! Squidward! Well, he's not here. I'll bet that eager beaver's already down at Jellyfish Field.
Aha! They're finally gone!
This is where things get genuinely disturbing. The future Bikini Bottom is a chrome-plated nightmare where everything Squidward once knew has been erased. SpongeBob and Patrick have evolved into unrecognizable beings called Spongetron and Primitive Sponge, and the familiar world has become cold, sterile, and utterly alien. But this would all change when Squidward tries to escape this nightmare. Using a time machine, he accidentally travels too far back and ends up in prehistoric times, completely alone except for primitive versions of his friends. The isolation becomes overwhelming. He's trapped between 2 equally horrifying time periods with no way to return to his own reality. The most disturbing part comes when Squidward realizes he's caught in an endless cycle. Every attempt to fix his situation only makes it worse. He experiences complete existential breakdown, screaming, "Alone, alone," as he's trapped in a white void between dimensions. This isn't just physical isolation, it's complete psychological and temporal displacement. This episode doesn't just deal with time travel. It explores themes of existential dread, isolation, and the horror of being displaced from everything familiar. We watch Squidward experience what can only be described as a complete mental breakdown as he confronts the possibility of eternal loneliness across multiple timelines. The sterile future and primitive past both represent different forms of psychological hell. Episode 3, One Course Meal. Although SB-129 takes the cake for existential horror, it's still not the darkest. The darkest episode is One Course Meal, and this one crosses lines that should never be crossed in children's television. This episode starts when Mr. Krabs discovers that Plankton has a crippling phobia of whales, specifically Pearl, Mr. Krabs' daughter. What begins as a simple discovery quickly escalates into one of the most psychologically abusive scenarios in the entire series.
Krabs had a whale!
You mean his big, bad, scary teenage daughter?
I hear that mocking tone in your voice, Karen, and I don't appreciate it. Don't you remember what happened to my ancestors at the hands of those beasts?
This is where Mr. Krabs reveals his true sociopathic nature. Instead of simply using this knowledge to protect the Krabby Patty formula, he begins systematically terrorizing Plankton with whale sounds and images. He doesn't just scare Plankton once, he makes it his mission to psychologically torture him every single day. The most messed up thing in the entire show happens next. Plankton becomes so traumatized by Mr. Krabs' relentless psychological abuse that he develops severe PTSD. He can't eat, can't sleep, and can't function. The torture becomes so unbearable that Plankton literally contemplates ending his own life, lying down on the road waiting for a bus to run him over. What makes this particularly twisted is Mr. Krabs' reaction when he discovers Plankton in this suicidal state. Instead of feeling remorse or stopping his campaign of terror, Mr. Krabs laughs. He finds Plankton's psychological breakdown and suicidal ideation amusing. This isn't just bullying. This is a systematic campaign of psychological warfare designed to destroy another being's mental health. Mr. Krabs, who is supposed to be a somewhat greedy but ultimately harmless character, is revealed to be a genuine sociopath. He takes pleasure in another creature's psychological suffering and shows no empathy even when faced with the possibility of driving someone to suicide. Plankton, meanwhile, experiences genuine trauma that affects every aspect of his existence. This episode had multiple dark traits, but the most prominent being psychological abuse and suicidal ideation. The fact that Mr. Krabs systematically tortures Plankton to the point of mental breakdown, then laughs at his victim's suicidal thoughts, represents the absolute darkest moment in SpongeBob history. What's worse is that this psychological torture is presented as comedy, normalizing the idea that driving someone to the brink of suicide is acceptable if they're your enemy. From supernatural horror to existential dread to psychological abuse, these episodes prove that even the most innocent-seeming shows can venture into truly disturbing territory.